Recording in progress. Hello, my dear friends. Today we are on the last part of this series on conflict analysis. And today I'm going to talk to you about contextualizing the problem. So, kumbaga, we do not look at the problem in isolation, but rather we look at a conflict situation in relation to to the elements in its environment. So, in other words, we have to understand the situatedness of the conflict. We have to understand how the different factors surrounding the conflict influences the life and progress of the conflict. So, allow me, my friends, to share with you my slides, my screen, and here I'm I'm showing to you the slides. So the context and context definition and mapping. So the meaning of conflict resides in its context. Context can be the background of the conflict, the environment where the conflict is taking place, or the circumstances that necessitate the conflict. Context can also be referred to as the root causes or systemic conditions behind the conflict. So in other words, this will involve a more a postmodern approach in understanding a conflict. So this is more of a qualitative approach to understanding conflict. So we have to understand the background, the environment where the conflict is. For example, if we will look at the Palestinian and Israeli-Palestinian question or problem in the Middle East, hindi lang siya nangyari as ganon. Meron siyang kasaysayan, meron siyang history, meron siyang pinagdaanan, at merong mga events sa kasaysayan na nagbigay ng pagkakataon sa problemang ito. The same also in trying to understand our problem. Maybe there's no need for us to go somewhere else, but rather look at our own country. The problem in Mindanao, for example, the problem in the Cordilleras, for example. These are examples of a problem that emanates from history. Because the Republic of the Philippines, as it was established in 1948. It is not only it does not only begin there. There is a story behind it, and the different people within the territory also have their own narratives and definition of stories, and they have relationship with each other. And the quality of this relationship is the one that mediates in the understanding of the meaning of this context. That's why, as I have said, we need to be able to understand the context and definition of the problem in order to be able to understand it more fully and then be able to provide a better solution, especially in terms of policy making, in terms of laws and approaches. And it's very important, especially that our leaders understand this and that our political leaders are also advised in a way that understand or takes into considerations this kind of thing. So these are some of the questions that might help in conflict mapping. Why is there conflict and what it is all about? Then what social, political, economic, religious root or systemic conditions that feed the conflict? Ano yung mga factors na nagpapakain sa conflict na yun para lumaki siya ng lumaki? And where is the conflict located? So we are now talking about geography. We are talking about physical location. So what in history drives the conflict? Anong mga istorya meron sila? Anong mga narratives meron sila? And who is involved or affected by conflict? What are their roles and conditions? So these are the things that we need to ask ourselves when we are doing this. Okay. Now, in context description, identify the following. We have to identify the geography, the demography, the history, the economy, and political situation of that country. So, ma-encounter ninyo ito later on when you will be assigned to do your own case study. You have to understand the geography of the country. You have to understand the demography, the population, then their history, their economy, and the political systems that they have. Then, locating the conflict in a place. So, in other words, for example, if you will start with the geography, then you have to describe the geography of that country or of these countries. Ano yung kanilang mga borders? What are the size of the space where the conflict is occurring? Saan ba nagaganap ang conflict doon? Then, you also have to identify, describe the topography, the landmass, the vegetation and the climate, then the natural and strategic endowment of that country. Which of the factors listed above have most influence in the current conflict? Then, which factors, when combined with, will affect the conflict significantly? Okay. Then, if we talk about demography or locating the people, relationship, and environment, then we have to look into the contextual factors, the size of the population, the gender distribution, what is the ethnic distribution of that country, the geographic distribution, the relationship between groups, the impact of environment on people, population, density, gender, and distribution. And then once we have done this, then we should ask ourselves, which of the factors listed above have most influence on the current conflict? And which factors, when combined, will affect the conflict significantly? Then when we look also to the historical factors of the conflict, then we have to contextualize the factors. What are the historical factors? Historical events that generate conflict. Ano bang mga event doon sa history nila ang nag-generate ng conflict? Then historical events, what are those that mitigate the conflict? And events currently are exploited. Ano ba yung pangyayari sa panahon nito na ginagamit nila para ma-exploit, para maipagpatuloy yung conflict na yon? So which of the factors listed above have most influence on the current conflict? Then, which factors, when combined, will affect the conflict significantly? And how are the past and the present important to determine the future? These are some of the important questions that you have asked once you have already collated your data. Then you also have the economic factors of conflict. Yan, contextual factor, primary exports, sa mga economy na to, international debts and loan, economic events that generate conflict, impact of economy on people, impact of workforce education, resources currently exploited. So which of the factors listed above have the most influence on the current conflict, and which factors, when combined, will affect the conflict significantly? Okay. Then also the political factors like elections, governance, security, legitimacy, state and society relations, and others. So you have to identify first the different political factors of that particular country. So ngayon, iyan po ang nagtatapos ang ating lecture ngayon, and I hope that you are now ready to do your case study. That will be one of your major projects, and you're going to defend that project, the outcome of your project. So thank you very much, my friend. Thank you very much for taking time.